This guy's name is Alex Kaplan. He's a researcher, a little demon researcher.
Hi, I'm Alex, the demon researcher. For the past few years, I've been covering the sprawling QAnon conspiracy theory, claiming that Trump is involved in a secret plot to take down satanic pedophiles in the deep state. And I've gotten my fair share of blowback from the QAnon community for scrutinizing its influence in our political system.
Alex Pee Wee Herman, Soy Boy, Kaplan.
Alex Kaplan, you are a worthless piece of shit.
Frankly, I tend to ignore what most of these QAnon-connected people say about me and my reporting, but there's one big exception that I've seen pop up since 2020.
QAnon's not a thing. It's Q and the Anons.
QAnon is not a thing.
Quote unquote, I'm going to use quotes for this because there is no QAnon. QAnon accounts.
There is no QAnon. Obviously, that's false, but it's something that's really caught on in the QAnon community.
There is Q, there are Anons. There is no QAnon.
It's not just randos on the internet, though. Here's Lara Logan, the former 60 Minutes star turned conspiracy theorist.
QAnon is an operation that is designed to discredit whatever it is that's coming out of Q.
Or take the actors Jim Caviezel and Roseanne Barr.
It's not QAnon, it's Q and Anons.
There's no such thing as QAnon. There is the Q board, the Q drops, the Q map, and then there are anonymous people. There's no QAnon.
And here's Jim Watkins, the owner of the message board site where QAnon is based, making that same argument in a deposition before the House January 6th Select Committee, telling them, quote, "The reason media matters and George Soros invented QAnon is to make a boogeyman." Hey, Jim, appreciate the flattery, but I promise you, I'm not that ambitious.
Pee Wee Herman, that was a great comment.
So, what's going on here? Why are all these QAnon people saying that QAnon doesn't exist? To answer that question, we'll have to go back to 2020. Sorry.
Breaking news, stay at home. That is the order tonight as the coronavirus pandemic spreads.
In the first few months of the COVID lockdown, people were bored, scared, and they were looking for answers. And a lot of people found what they thought was the answer in QAnon. Consumption of QAnon content soared, with Google searches for QAnon and followers of QAnon influencers going up significantly in the first few months of the pandemic. But as interest in QAnon soared, so did mainstream scrutiny of it. News outlets started covering the rise of QAnon congressional candidates like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Touting QAnon conspiracy theories, calling for the execution of prominent Democrats, promoting anti-Semitic and racist tropes, and questioning the reality of mass shootings.
Multiple platforms began cracking down on QAnon-related conspiracy theory content.
Facebook cracking down on QAnon conspiracy pages, suspended 70,000 QAnon accounts.
The latest major online platform to take action.
Even President Trump was asked about it.
The QAnon movement appears to be gaining a lot of followers. Can you talk about what you think about that?
I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much.
With that amount of scrutiny, some in the QAnon community decided it was time to go undercover, to hide their true beliefs from news outlets who might scrutinize them.
Save our children! Save our children!
In August of 2020, a series of Save the Children rallies broke out across the United States, with the hashtag Save the Children going viral on a number of social media platforms.
Save Our Children is here not just to be a voice for our innocent, but to be loud as for them.
These groups claimed to be worried about child trafficking, but investigations revealed that they were actually QAnon groups who were using Save the Children as a way to disguise what they were actually doing. QAnon groups made up only 18% of those posting about hashtag Save Our Children, but they accounted for nearly 70% of the total interactions on the hashtag in August of 2020. On Instagram, QAnon-related accounts posting about hashtag Save Our Children accounted for 75% of the interactions.
We're tired of being silenced by social media. We're not going to be quiet anymore.
Unfortunately, QAnon's go undercover strategy worked, as it went largely unnoticed in news coverage.
A walk for the hashtag Save the Children movement was filled with advocates to end human trafficking.
Calling attention to an issue that some say just isn't talked about enough, human trafficking.
Regardless of their public online postings and event pages, local media coverage of the events had been widespread and credulous, almost never mentioning the event's QAnon connections. A few local television and radio stations even had advertised lists of the events on their news websites.
She says the goal for the rally is simply to open the door for conversation. It's from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. in front of the Crook County Courthouse.
Soon, QAnon's go undercover strategy would become official. In September of 2020, Q told their followers to, quote, camouflage and drop references to QAnon and Q. The next month, Q went even further, telling supporters that, quote, there is Q, there are Anons, there is no QAnon. And Q's followers fell in line.
First of all, there is no such thing as QAnon. So let's get that straight.
One influencer has been honest about what this is really about. John Sable, known online as QAnon John. Given his online nickname, the QAnon community's undercover strategy put him in an awkward position. So he actually told his followers the truth, writing that, quote, "The mainstream media started using QAnon to write damaging hit pieces about the movement, and we had to camouflage. You can't censor a letter. QAnon is much more targetable." Over these past years, those marching orders have trickled up from the online community to actual QAnon-connected political figures. For instance, here's a QAnon-supporting former congressional candidate in New York.
There is no such thing as the QAnon. It does not exist.
And here's a QAnon-supporting former Arizona gubernatorial candidate.
We're not the QAnoner that the mainstream media always talks. There's no such thing.
No, there's not.
And here's a QAnon-supporting former Arizona school board candidate.
The media has called us QAnons. There's no such thing.
And it's not just political candidates either. Here's Patrick Byrne, the former Overstock CEO who had partnered with Michael Flynn and Sidney Powell to try to overturn the 2020 presidential election.
There's no such thing as QAnon. There's something Q and there's Anons.
Even one of Trump's attorneys has invoked it.
QAnon doesn't actually exist. That's my understanding, but there is no such thing.
This undercover strategy isn't new. Extremists have always claimed to disavow the far-right and bigoted ideas that motivate them. Just listen to the way notorious segregationist George Wallace denied his own racism.
Are you seeking support of racists?
Well, of course, I don't know what your definition of a racist is, but I'm certainly not a racist.
This is how extremists become normalized in politics, bubbling up in fringe corners of the public, going undercover to avoid scrutiny during elections, and then revealing their real agenda once they have power. But with QAnon, this undercover strategy is way more explicit, and once again, it's working. Like here, from a then Illinois Secretary of State candidate telling the Chicago Sun-Times, quote, "I do not know who QAnon is." She very likely does, and we know she's very likely echoing Q, but the newspaper just takes her at face value. Or here, with a Michigan outlet asking a school board member about QAnon post she made. She says, quote, "There's no such thing as QAnon." The outlet then just moves on, not telling the reader that she just directly invoked Q. And it's not just state outlets either. A national outlet spoke to a then Arizona state legislative candidate about apparently writing in a QAnon influencer's channel, quoting her saying, "As far as I know, there is no such thing as QAnon." Again, the outlet moves on, not pointing out that she just gave the game away. The fact that reporters aren't able to recognize this undercover strategy should worry you, because QAnon isn't just silly. It's dangerous. It's been tied to multiple acts of violence, including an armed man holding up the Hoover Dam.
An armed man caused a major traffic backup near the Hoover Dam.
Multiple QAnon figures also participated in the January 6th insurrection.
January 6th rioter and QAnon conspiracy theorist was sentenced to 5 years in prison today.
And internal warnings have been issued by government agencies about QAnon activities.
The FBI and Homeland Security saying some followers of this could target Democrats.
And this undercover strategy is only going to get worse. QAnon has become a significant feature of Republican politics in recent years, with GOP consultants openly acknowledging its political power. And influential conservative figures like Ginny Thomas have used QAnon propaganda to peddle conspiracy theories about election fraud. It's more important than ever that reporters expose this undercover strategy for what it is. And that means being willing to describe public figures as QAnon followers, even when they're playing dumb. The QAnon folks may not like it, but if my experience as a demon researcher has taught me anything, it's that if QAnon folks are complaining about you on their live streams, then you've probably done something right.
Alex, Pee Wee Herman, Soy Boy, Kaplan.